Welcome to my American History Notes, where I discuss the conclusions that I've drawn from studying American history, conclusions that you might not agree with, but that you should at least know about the events and people and places and things and concepts that I talk about. So, I hope this spurs you to study on your own. So, we're talking about the causes of the American Revolution. So, we're continuing to talk about the British government, how they botched the whole handling of the things that they did, and it took away lost them their colonies in North America, what became the United States of America. As the British government attempted to deal with Native Americans, Indians on the western frontier, plug holes in the acts of trade and navigation that allowed smuggling, and to raise money from America for its defense, they foolishly did things piecemeal and too late. The British had enough on their hands with a great deal more territory to administer and did not want the colonists rapidly overrunning the western portions of the colonies, particularly the Ohio Valley. They were trying to prevent wars with Indian nations that existed on the western fringes. Colonies such as Pennsylvania had shrunk actually due to the depredations of the French and Indians during the war, and there was a sudden outburst of settlement and a rage against all Indians for the atrocities committed by a few. So much so that a group of settlers from Paxton near Harrisburg massacred a village of peaceful Indians at Conestoga in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. They were never brought to justice for the murder. In 1763, King George III made it law that no colonial government could grant and no white man could take land beyond the rivers whose sources flowed into the Atlantic. This infuriated the colonists, who had a hunger to push westward and to take formerly Native American lands. Then the new Prime Minister of England, Grenville, with Parliament, imposed a tax on the stamps used on documents and licenses, which was called the Stamp Act. This was done without the usual action of the colonial assemblies. The colonists viewed this as very un English taxation without representation, as they had no members in Parliament, and the British government viewed that as nonsense, as the Parliament supposedly represented the colonists as well as native Brits on English soil. Some English politicians opposed this, crediting the colonists with bravery in holding back the French in North America. But King George III and his government, wanting to establish their own authority after his grandfather, King George II's 40-year dominion, were not willing to compromise. There were mass riots and violence in the Boston and New York over this, quote, taxation without representation issue. A governor's home was burnt to the ground, and even Benjamin Franklin felt threatened. In Virginia, Patrick Henry insisted that any such act was null and void, as the Virginia Assembly had nothing to do with it. In addition, the Sugar Act of 1733, which placed a heavy tax on molasses used to make rum, was changed to lower the tax and improve enforcement. It was hard to collect a high tax and much easier to collect a lower tax, and this cut into smuggling, which was rampant in the colonies to avoid the tax. Things rapidly got out of hand. Benjamin Franklin was caught in the middle. As Postmaster General, he ran an efficient service that even saw overnight deliveries between Philadelphia and New York. But as the Pennsylvania Assembly's representative in England, he had to face the fury of the crown over the civil unrest in America. And we're going to discuss as things get more heated and more heated until revolt breaks out. So thank you for listening, and I hope you will dig into this and study and come to conclusions for yourself. Thank you.